Hunky Dory. Never was an album title so appropriate. From every angle you look at it, the album is absolute fineness, the measuring rod by which any other album should be defined. And the title is becoming for another reason. Hunky Dory is an American slang term, being used here by an arty English songwriter, serving as an example for the secret ingredient in the stew. The blending of different styles and cultures, of highbrow and lowbrow, of things that were considered alien to one another. It is a seeming hodgepodge that creates a seamless unity, a new coherent vision that arises from what looks at first like fractures of other visions. It is the first album that manifests this unique quality that would become Bowie's trademark. Musically, Bowie brings together all the styles of his first three albums, the theatrical symphonies of the first, the acoustic ballads of the second, the hard rock of the third, and blends them perfectly. With the addition of Rick Wakeman's jolly piano, Mick Ronson's magical arrangements, and Ken Scott's bright production, he turns it all into wonderful pop, at once light and dark, provocative and accessible. And as a songwriter he really flowers, honing down both his candid side and his theatrical side, becoming so subtle that it's hard to tell when he is being himself and when he's playing a character, when he is being straightforward and when ironic. Which, of course, fits right in with the identity confusion that is the heart of the album. Philosophically, the album picks up where the previous one left off. In The Man Who Sold the World, Bowie tried to redirect the revolutionary spirit of the counterculture towards Nietzschean goals, towards creating a world of heroic supermen. Hunky Dory continues this line, invoking some of those who promulgated the Superman ideal: Nietzsche, Crowley, Bulwer-Lytton, and the Nazis. And while the previous album existed mainly on a mythical, timeless plane, this one takes the Superman concept and sticks it right in the everyday present, in the pop culture of the early 70s. After going on a tangent to find a philosophical answer that would satisfy his spirit, he now comes back to bring the answer to the world. But then, he comes crashing down as he faces everyday reality, which is nothing like his dreams. Bowie shares with us his everydayness, which at the time was all about the birth of his first son. Kooks is a loving record for little Zoe, which does not try to transcend the everyday plane, but rather finds its joys in it. But Oh You Pretty Things takes this birth as an omen for the coming of the Superman, as Bowie looks at his child and imagines that he is the beginning of the next stage in the evolution of humankind, a Homo superior. When the track ends, however, we slide right into 8-line poem, which takes us down from these euphoric heights and back to the mundane reality of the nursery, telling us that the key to another existence is somewhere beyond our reach. In fact, the state of mind that dominates the album is that of being stuck in a boring, meaningless reality, just waiting and hoping for something to come and break the monotony. There are passages that express this feeling in changes: Oh You Pretty Things, Life on Mars, Quicksand, Song for Bob Dylan, and Queen Bitch. There's clearly a need for a new messiah, someone who will come and show us the way out of the rut. But others don't realize it. Most are still stuck in their counterculture tracks, believing in its old dogmas and messiahs, failing to see that they are no longer relevant. Bowie already took apart the beliefs of the counterculture in records like Space Oddity, Signet Committee, Memory of a Free Festival, and All the Madmen, and he continues to do so here. The signature piece is Song for Bob Dylan, in which he assumes the identity of a Dylan fan who is waiting for his hero to come back and show him the way, instead of thinking for himself. Another example is his tongue-in-cheek rendition of Fill Your Heart, a cute hippie ditty about the power of love, which is presented as a thing that can lead us to salvation. Bowie sings it affectionately, but also playfully, clearly poking fun at its naivete. It's quite obvious that he is assuming a character here as well, of some starry-eyed hippie singer. Then there's Life on Mars, which attacks Sinatra's anthem, My Way, and its suggestion that you can determine your own unique way and live a heroic life. The heroes of this record are fully aware that they are stuck in an existence that offers no exciting alternatives, no heroic ways of life, just variations on the same old boring themes. And Quicksand dramatizes the situation, bringing forth the tension caused by the discrepancy between his Superman dreams and his actual reality, showing that it is driving him insane. He must find a way out. Hence, he turns to self-reflection to find the truth he can build an authentic and heroic way of life on. Changes provides the answer. You can be a Superman if you learn how to control your changes. The impermanence of the self, which in tracks like Quicksand and the Bowie brothers is perceived as a problem, as something that prevents you from hanging on to any lasting truth, here becomes the fundamental building block. It is a problem for man, not for a Superman. Instead of trying to find something eternal to hang on to, he is going to learn how to hang on to things only temporarily, and let go when they are not good anymore. The question then becomes, what is the criterion for the change? How should you change in order to ensure your happiness? The answer is, a real change cannot come only from within, but must be aided by someone who comes from the outside, an alien. In Life on Mars, the heroes wish for a way of life that is beyond their world, but they cannot reach it on their own. They need what the hero of Oh You Pretty Things gets, a hand that comes down from another world and pulls him up. But note, the hand doesn't pull him all the way to that other world, but rather gives him the ability to remain in his own world and change it. The change Bowie talks about is not movement from one existing world to another, but rather a process of infusing elements that are handed over from that other world into your own world, and creating a new world out of the merger. And for that to work, the alien cannot be just any alien, but someone who brings a logic that corresponds to something that you already feel inside. The alien merely gives you the means to express it, means that your own world could not provide. We have the characteristics of Bowie's Superman, then. He is someone who is in control of his changes, and does so by merging with an alien to transform his own world and create something new. And, once again, Bowie pretends to be the spokesperson for his generation, as if this way of thinking is actually what the whole youth rebellion of the 60s was about. Changes, Oh You Pretty Things, and Life on Mars show the youth as excited by aliens and by the prospects of change, against their disapproving parents. And Cooks shows that Bowie intends to be a different kind of parent, as he tries to impart to his son a love for things that are strange. But Bowie also knows that this is not exactly the case, and most members of the counterculture are actually looking for something stable to believe in. Song for Bob Dylan creates a distinction between the ever-changing, super-brainy Dylan and his pathetic fan who fears change and wants Dylan to reassure him with something familiar. And Queen Bitch has a battle between two persons, one who gives in to the alien figure of the Queen Bitch, and one who is afraid to do so. Bowie identifies himself with the apprehensive one, showing that he too has this fear in him, and needs to overcome it if he wants to live the life he envisions. And the track that comes right after it, and closes the album, is the Bowie Brothers, which also has tension between two figures, one stable and one ever-changing. Bowie identifies himself mainly with the stable one, but in the end, it seems that the changing one is taking over, and sings his way out of the album and towards a shift in Bowie's personality. From here on, he will be a changer. Alright, so now we know what our way of life should be, but where can we find the aliens it requires, seeing as the question is their life on Mars remains unanswered? Well, it turns out that the alien doesn't have to come from Mars. There are enough aliens here on Earth. people and cultures whose logic is contrary to your own, and who can give you the hand that will pull you out of the quicksand of your own thought processes. But we must remember, this alien logic must correspond with something you feel inside, and alienate you to the logic of your own culture. What was it about the hippie logic, then, that Bowie's innermost sensibilities rejected? First of all, there was their attitude towards artificiality. The hippie logic rejected artificiality and aspired to be completely natural. Hippie rock distinguished itself from the so-called artificial pop world and claimed to be coming from the soul, from the inner self. But Bowie found that there is no inner self, and that the self has to be created. The artificial, then, becomes his truth, and he needs an alien that stands for artificiality. And it just so happened there was someone around whose entire persona and aesthetics were a celebration of the artificial. Andy Warhol becomes Bowie's model, the alien that can show him how to make art out of artificial. The track Andy Warhol celebrates Warhol's artificiality and expresses Bowie's desire to incorporate it. Next, if the self is not something to be found inside, but something to be artificially created and made superhuman and heroic, then the models to imitate are obviously the Hollywood stars. In Life on Mars, Bowie emphasizes the importance of movies in helping us create our identities, and Andy Warhol celebrates Warhol's ability to turn himself into a figure that looks like it came straight out of the movies. This is an ability which Bowie would obviously like to emulate, because in Quicksand, he proclaims himself the essence of Greta Garbo, the greatest star of all. His aspiration to be like Garbo is shown once again on the album cover, where his painted portrait is based on an iconic Garbo photo. Actually, it seems to be a combination of this photo with a few other of her images. Bowie, then, wants to live his life as if he was a star on the silver screen. He wants to infuse the glamour and artificiality of Hollywood and pop culture into the naturalistic world of hippie rock, and thus transform it. And for that, he needs to change the settings. While the hippies preached an escape from the urban world and a return to nature, Bowie finds more truth in the city, the place that is about artificiality, alienation, plurality of identities, and self-creation. Once again, he finds the alien that can help him express this sensibility, in the form of the Velvet Underground, the New York band whose celebration of everything urban was averse to hippie logic. Queen Bitch is Bowie's attempt to merge his style with that of the VU, and create a new musical experience. And Queen Bitch, with the help of the Bewley Brothers, brings another alien on board. In the Victorian mindset, the nature of human sexuality was very well defined. There are men and there are women. Men are attracted to women, and women are attracted to men. They have sexual intercourse, and from that babies are born. But under the surface of this Victorian environment, since the beginning of the 20th century, thrived a gay subculture in which the rules were different, in which one's gender or inclination were a lot more flexible and various, and in which sex was done for joy, not for procreation. For someone who went through the sexual revolution of the 60s, it was obvious that the Victorian worldview was wrong, and that the gay world held at least some of the truth. The final two tracks of the album, borrowing images and terms from the gay subculture, show Bowie preparing to bring the two worlds together, to create something new. The stage is set, then. If Bowie wants to save youth culture from its decay, he will have to create a new messiah, a Dylan for the new decade. What are the attributes of this messiah? Well, he has to be bigger than life, manifesting the Superman ideal. He has to appear as an alien who hails from another world, such as Mars, cracking the sky to reach down to the children of Earth and pull them to another plane. He has to be someone who can change images and identities, and recreate himself at will. He has to master the glamour and artificiality of the pop world. He has to be the epitome of stardom, someone who is practically made out of stardust. He has to know how to live in the urban world and turn city life into magic. And he has to be a being of indeterminate gender and sexual inclination, a new step in the sexual revolution. By the time Hunky Dory saw light, in December 1971, Bowie was already putting the finishing touches on exactly such a figure.